This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Say that all the time. Oh, same thing?
No. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll learn for Gittel Bas Golda Ita. Should have a full Shalem and B'Sech Shachar Yisrael. Also for Tzivya Bas Chayefega. Should have a full Shalem and B'Sech Shachar Yisrael. So today, Sunday, is Yud Beis Adar Aleph. So Yud Beis Adar doesn't mean much to the common person, but it is a very important day in the Jewish calendar. It's known as Yom Turyonis. So Yom Turyonis, in Megillas Tanis, it used to be that on this day, the Loila Mispaid or the Loilis Anaispain. It was one of the days that you weren't allowed to eulogize and you weren't allowed to fast. What happened on this day is that in the city of Lud, the king's daughter, Turyonis, his daughter was killed. And when he found her dead, he said, I only have one set of enemies in my empire, and that's the Jews. The Jews must have killed her. And therefore I'm going to kill all the Jews. And he let it be known that he was going to kill all the Jews. So there came a remarkable pair of brothers, Papas and Lilyanus, and they approached the king and they confessed to killing her. Of course they did no such thing. But they confessed to killing her in order to save the Jewish people. Now, the way Megillas Tanis brings it down is that the king knew that they didn't kill her either. But he said, okay, I accept your confession and I'll execute you. He said, and if you really didn't do it, then let the God who saved Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah save you. So they told him two things. First of all, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were great tzaddikim. We're not great tzaddikim. Second of all, Nebuchadnezzar was a worthy king that deserved a miracle to happen through him. You're not a worthy king. And in reality, there are many ways for God to cause us to die. But God is using us that He'll exact punishment that you will die the same way you kill us. So the king had them beaten to death. 2 weeks later, it says in Megillas Tanis, the Turyonis was assassinated by people that came and beat him to death. This was considered, now, Abbas Kol went out, the Gemara tells us, Abbas Kol went out and said that in Gan Eden, nobody can look at the brilliance of Papas and Lilyanus. The tremendous Gan Eden they got, they saved the entire city of Lud, they saved the entire Jewish people of Lud. So why don't we celebrate this day today? So it's brought down that on this day, there was two other tzaddikim, Shmaya and Achya, that also died. And because they died, and it was a day of grief that they died, it canceled out the celebration of the Mesiras Nefesh of Papas and Lilyanus. The Sefer HaTorah brings down that we don't know who Shmaya and Achya are, and we don't know the story about them, but that's what's brought down. In the fabric of time, we celebrate the koyach of Mesiras Nefesh that we have in our DNA. We have a koyach of Mesiras Nefesh. I always remember, I've said this in the past, I always remember that the Aguda convention right after 9/11, Rav Moshe Wolfson got up to speak about 9/11. And they had just, right before he spoke, they had just shown a video of the planes hitting the towers. And he got up and he was all white-faced. And I heard later on, through the grapevine on the dais, that this is the first time that Rav Wolfson saw a live video in his life. And to see that as a live video the first time is kind of shaky. So at the time, Rav Moshe Wolfson had the following observation. He said that when we know that there's always an equal balance of koyach hakadusha and koyach tumah in the world. That's what it says. Zeh lu'umah zeh oseh elikim. One corresponding to the other did God make. That's why when Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't pass away until Bilam passed away. Because Moshe Rabbeinu was the foil for Bilam. There was a koyach hakadusha and a koyach hatumah. And they asked Rabbi Yeshua, who was the great debater of the heretics, what's going to happen when you pass away? Who's going to defend us from the heretics? And Rabbi Yeshua said, when I pass away, there will be no more debates. Like today, nobody's debating theology anymore. Somebody's debating theology and they're not interested. It's apathy. Who debates theology anymore? It's not even going to sit. It doesn't exist. And when that's the concept, that's why we have Azazel, the two goats, the one that enters in the Kodesh Kodashim and one that's thrown off the cliff. Azazel is an abbreviation, Zelu Umah Zeh Oseh Elikim. Because it's equal Koyach Kedusha and Koyach Tumah. Says Rav Wolfson. When we see that there are Arabs that are willing to smash themselves to smithereens to kill people, it's an amazing thing. They're willing to go in a plane straight into a building and obliterate themselves to do tumah, to do murder. That means that there has to be an equal koyach kedusha of mesiras nefesh in the world for holiness. Now he said that doesn't mean to kill yourself, because he says mali kotla kula, mali kotla palga. What's the difference if you kill your whole self or you kill part of yourself? He says that there's a koyach of mesiras nefesh by Klal Yisrael. And on a day like this, where this day celebrates an act of such stupendous mesiras nefesh, whenever I learn about Papas and Lilyonis, I have an obvious question. Why did they both need to die? They're fabricating that they killed them. Let one say I killed her. Why two people have to die? I never found anybody to ask the question. Obviously, the answer is that the king knew that one person couldn't get into his daughter. There were always gods. So one person couldn't have done it. It had to be done by two people. That's why they both had to come and admit, because otherwise they wouldn't both waste their lives. Only one should have gone in. Right? So it's probably it needed, but when it's a day where in the fabric of time there's a koyach of mesiras nefesh. Now each and every one of us has to ask, what does mesiras nefesh mean? We give of ourselves. A certain amount of sacrifice. So where is us? By certain people it could be getting up for shachris. It's a sacrifice. I want to sleep another 3 hours. It's a sacrifice. By other people, the mesiras nefesh could be to push yourself to have kavanah in davening. Because I just want to space out. And you have to push yourself. It's a mesiras nefesh. There are different things. Other people, it's a mesiras nefesh to go to be mevakar chayla. There are people that they don't like to see sick people. It reminds them of their own mortality. It gets them nauseous. It's a mesiras nefesh. Where do you give of yourself? Where do you give of yourself? In marriage, there's plenty of opportunities for mesiras nefesh. I'm not in the mood. I know. Yeah, but you're Masar Nefesh. You go beyond yourself. It's very interesting that Rav Shach says an interesting pshat. It says, "Vayihi ki yoru amiyaldos es ha'elikim vayas lahem batim." Because the miyaldos feared God. We know that's talking about Shifra and Puah, Yocheved and Miriam, because they feared. Paro told them, that they should kill the babies if they were boys, or re'isim alo avnoyim, if you see them on the birthstone, and they're a boy, kill them. Now, to defy the king is death. It says, Vayihi ki yora amiyalda, says Elikim, yaslam, but what should it have said? It should have said, Vayihi, that they risked their lives, vayaslam batim. But instead it says, Vayihi ki yora amiyalda, says Elikim. They risked their lives. Says Rav Shach, Yiras Shamayim is even more than risking your life. Amazing word. He said they had fear of heaven. Fear of heaven is the highest level. Hein Yiras Hashem hi chachma. Now, I wanted to talk to you also. This year, we have 2 others. So actually, this year is double joy, double barrel joy. It says, "Mishenichnas Adar marbim b'simcha." When Adar comes, we increase joy. The Chassam Sofer asks an interesting question. The Chassam Sofer asks, why is it that the Rambam says "Mishenichnas of mematin b'simcha," but Mishenichnas Adar, we don't say Marbim Simcha. He doesn't bring it down. In Hilchas Megillah, it says nothing about Mishenichnas Adar Marbim Simcha. It says Mishenichnas of Mematim Simcha. So the Chassam Sofer gives an interesting answer. The Chassam Sofer says that there is no halachic application of Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. Mishenichnas of Mamatin B'Simcha is when Mamatin B'Simcha. We don't go to weddings. There are halachic applications. He says Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. There's no halachic application. It's a very fascinating Chassam Sofer. He bases it on the fact that the Rambam doesn't bring it down la halacha. I told you 3 applications. 2 that I heard from Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe said, one I didn't tell you. I had a few people around. The first time I said it, I didn't want them to hear it. But the Rambam says, Rav Moshe said to drink a little wine. There's wine and simcha b'yayin. But he said the ikar is to learn more Torah. Because ain't simcha because simcha is Torah. That's the... And then I said also that the Rambam says ain't simcha mafuara kim mesameach leiv aniyim v'yisayimim geirim v'almanos. So to do more tzedakah, there is also a practical application. But the Chassam Sofer doesn't learn that way. The Chassam Sofer says that it's a general hargasha, a hargasha of happiness. There's more happiness at this time of the year. So when you have a leap year, it's double-barreled happiness. But it's a very interesting Rabbeinu Ephraim and Chizkuni. The Rabbeinu Ephraim and Chizkuni both say that Adar Beis has no mazel. Every month has a mazel. Adar Beis has no mazel. It's a Rabbeinu Ephraim. Rabbeinu Ephraim is a Rishon. And he says that's why the Chizkuni says this. The Chizkuni says that it says B'char lanu anoshim, choose for us. B'char lanu anoshim, choose for us people that say v'hilochem ba'amalek. Says the Chizkuni, Moshe Rabbeinu chose people that were born in Adar Beis because they didn't have a mazel. That's a Chizkuni. Comes along Rabbeinu Ephraim. Rabbeinu Ephraim says that Mordechai made a leap year, the year of Purim, the year of the miracle, so that the Adar that Haman chose, the last month of the year, should be Adar Beis, because on that time there's no mazel, and Klal Yisrael would be protected. That's a Rabbeinu Ephraim. The idea being that this is first of all, we have double joy, and the fact that this time of the year is very happy. It says that if we have to have a din with a guy, this is a time to do litigation with the guy. Right? This is a time where Klal Yisrael, in the fabric of time, it's a better time for Klal Yisrael. Since we have a few more minutes, in Parshas Kisisa, we talk about the giving of the Machzis HaShekel. And we have the famous drasha that Nisanai is a palindrome. The Nasnu is read both ways. Nasnu is read both ways, backwards and forwards. Now, the simple explanation is because what you give, you get back. Aser b'shvil shetisasher. That's the simple explanation. And by the way, in Gematria Atbash, you know how the Gematria of Atbash works? Aleph equals Tov, and Beis equals Shin. In Atbash, tzedakah equals tzedakah. Because Gimel, tzedakah, Dalet and Hey, becomes Sadik and Kuf, and Sadik and Kuf becomes Dalet and Hey. So tzedakah in Atbash is tzedakah. What's pshat? Because what you give, you're going to get back. But that's the elementary way of learning. It's actually more than that. Vinosnu is, what are we giving? We're giving what we get from Hashem. Ki mimcha hakol umiyodcha nasanu lach. From you is everything. Umiyodcha, and from your hands nasanu lach. We give it to you. Why is it that aser b'shvil shetisasher? Why is it that, so simple explanation is it's mida keneged mida. It's mida keneged mida. If you give, you're going to get. That's the simple explanation. Like the Rambam says, Ein odom ma'ani min tzedakah. No man becomes poor from tzedakah. It's a very fascinating thing. People think I'm giving tzedakah, I'm going to become poor. Ein odom ma'ani min tzedakah. No man becomes poor from tzedakah. But the Granat, in the Akdama, the Granat writes that the way it works is let's say there's a man that deals in a huge cash business. He has a big business, and it's a huge cash business. I mean, in the business, there's sometimes passes through a week $1 million cash. So he lost his senior manager, and now he has to put somebody else in charge. But it's a huge responsibility. I mean, somebody that has sticky hands, every week could rob him blind. So what does he do? He takes one of the people, and first he gives him the key to the petty cash. Petty cash is $20,000. And he sees how he is with the petty cash. He washes very careful. Then he gives him the key to the vault. The vault has in it $100,000. And he watches him. Finally, he gives him over the key ring with the $1 million. Says the Granat, the Rebbeinu Shalom is looking who to entrust his money to. So he gives us a little money, and he says, let me see what you're going to do with it. People that know how to use their money, and use it to make their wives happy, and use it l'kavod Shabbos, and use it for chinuch of children and grandchildren, and use it to help people, aniyei ircha, and aniyim of their mishpacha, and Hashem says, oh, this is a good gizbar. Let me give him more. He gives him a little more. And the person gives more. Rebbeinu Shalom says, this is a person I want to give my money to. And aser, we keep on doing that, aser b'shvil shetisasher. Rebbeinu Shalom says, here's a man that knows how to take care of my money. I want to remind you of my grandfather, my Zaydis Pshat, in Aser to Aser. My grandfather, Reb Menachem, ben Reb Yitzchak, Yorwitz, and Shamash and Aliyah. Some of you remember him from, should be a Mel Siyosha for all of us. So he used to say, if you take off Meiser from the word to Aser to Aser, take Meiser from to Aser. So Meiser from Tov is 400. So Meiser from Tov is Mem, is 40. Meiser from Ayin is 70, is 7. So that's Zayin. Meiser from Shin, 300, is Lamed. So that's Mem, Zayin, Lamed. And Meiser from Reish, 200, is 20, is Chaf. Mem, Zayin, Lamed, Chaf spells Mazlach. You want to know what your mazel is? Give tzedakah. And then you create mazlach. You create your mazel. We should all be zeicha to be able to give tzedakah b'simcha, and that merit Hashem should give us everything wonderful.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.